a little grain of gold. I had gone a begging from door to door in the village path when your golden chariot appeared in the distance like a gorgeous dream, and I wonder who was the king of all kings. My hope rose high, and I thought my evil days were at an end, and I stood waiting for alms to be given unasked and for wealth scattered on all sides in the dust. The chariot stopped where I stood. Your glance fell on me and you came down with a smile. I felt that the luck of my life had come at last. Then, all of a sudden, you held out your right hand and said, "What have you to give to me?" Ah, what a kindly jest was it to open your palm to a beggar to beg. I was confused and stood undecided, and then from my wallet I slowly took out the least little grain of corn and gave it to you. But how great was my surprise when at the day's end I emptied my bag on the floor to find a least little grain of gold among the poor heap. I bitterly wept and wished that I had the heart to give you my all. Summary of this chapter. One day, the poet beggar was begging from door to door in the village path. Suddenly, he saw at a distance a golden chariot coming towards him with the king of all kings seated in it. Soon, the chariot came and stopped before the poet beggar. The king came down from the chariot and looked at the poet beggar with a smiling face. Then the poet felt that the luck of his life had come at last. But contrary to his expectation, the king himself held out his hand asking for alms. The poet beggar was utterly confused and stood undecided. He could not make out how a king could beg from a beggar. He took it for a kindly jest. Then he took out the smallest grain of corn from his bag and offered it to the kindly reluctantly. At the end of the day, the poet beggar returned home and emptied his bag on the floor. To his great surprise, he found a little grain of gold in the heap of alms. Then he realized his foolishness. He wished that he had the heart to give his all the king, because in that case he would have begged his all in gold. The poet beggar expected rich alms from the king, but contrary to his expectation, the king himself begged alms from the poet beggar. The poet beggar was greatly surprised and looked it for a kindly jest. God sometimes comes down on earth in the guise of a poor beggar to test a man if he is ready to sacrifice his all to God. So it was not really a kindly jest. Thank you. Have a nice day.